The acceptance of a marriage proposal by a female soldier, Private Sophia Kenabi, from a youth corps member, and the aftermath of that action has been generating quite significant public discussions. Well, let's just have that discussion this morning, part of it, with Dr. Monday Ubani, who is former second vice president, Nigeria Bar Association, and chairman, NBA Spidol. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, so the event occurred, and there have been reactions from the military so far. So far, what's your take on the reaction of the military?
Thank you for having me, Ayo. I felt a bit embarrassed, when I learned that marriage proposal and acceptance has landed a lady in detention. And so the first question I asked, what is actually the offense? What is the administrative rule that she has breached? And if there is any, what are the provisions for penalty? What's supposed to be the penalty for whatever breach she's alleged to have committed? Is the penalty putting her in an indefinite detention, which is currently what is going on? She's still in detention and has not been released. I put up an article that she should be released forthwith and apologized to, and also the young man that has been embarrassed, because I don't know what the offense is all about. Their rules, according to them, says you are not allowed to marry upon enlistment within a specified period of 3 years. What happened at that particular video we all watched was just marriage proposal and acceptance. There was no marriage ceremony that took place. She's not married yet. I know the scarcity of husbands, especially for those ladies that work with the security agencies. They have an issue that no men, usually muster the courage and the guts to approach them. Most of them are married. And most of those military men and women, officers, most of them are married before they enter into the organization. And so they are not suitable and not available to marry these ladies. And so this lady saw a very golden opportunity from a young man who, I understand, they knew themselves before, this particular incident, and accepted the marriage proposal. So what's the issue? What's the crime? And we also have to interrogate most of these rules that are being churned out maybe during the military era. There are those rules and all that. Because you look at a substantive law establishing these organizations, they don't contain, such things. Maybe these are administrative rules you make. We need to interrogate those rules. Do they not really, most of the time, breach the provisions of the Constitution with regards to fundamental human rights? Is there any particular rule that says you can't have a fair hearing? Even if you have committed any breach, can't you be given a fair hearing? Why must the immediate punishment be that they throw you into detention, meaning that you have been convicted? So it's clearly a cake, and it's becoming embarrassing the way we're operating even under civilian democracy. So a lot of us are feeling very absurd, with this punishment that have been meted out to this guy. And I'm here this morning to really appeal to the military authority to release that girl. So that, we're in a period of Christmas and all that.
I think that's really the word there, appeal.
Yes.
Because, just to bring it to your information, that we did reach out to a representative of the military through the Brigadier General Bernard Onyuku, who is Director of Defense Media Operations. We're still awaiting response, and we're happy to take the response of the military even now while this conversation is going on. One of the things that has been put out, however, Dr. Bani, is that it wasn't permitted for an officer on duty to fraternize at the NYSC camp. Fraternize is said to have been described as indulging in an amorous relationship with a trainee, such as the youth corps. And that's what's your reaction?
Yeah,
to that? It's a disciplined institution.
Yeah, I agree. And it's important to emphasize this. Nobody wants to lower the standard of discipline with any of these security agencies. We won't canvass that. And any of them also that join these organizations understand there are rules and regulations. But I also believe that those rules and regulations usually specify processes for penalty. Are you following me? There are processes for penalty. We also have to interrogate those rules. And if you breach those rules, then you must pass through those processes, especially if there is going to be a conviction or whatever, a trial process during which you can be punished. Either you can be suspended, maybe starting with a query. A query gives you that opportunity of explaining what transpired. This issue of hearing is fundamental. I don't subscribe to the idea that the moment you are alleged to have done anything, wrong, that the best method is to throw you into an indefinite detention. I don't believe in it. You know what happened to Kuta Abiola was also, he went to work. For 2 days, nobody knew his whereabouts. Only for the agency to come 2 days thereafter to claim, oh, we are the one holding him in our custody for certain, breaches of their administrative rules. I feel that, and they kept him there for almost 3 weeks. Kept him there without any trial. So what is the offense he has committed that you cannot probably bring him before an impartial arbiter and then hear his own side of the story and then take those penal measures you want to take? Now, the second issue again is those rules. We need to interrogate them. They are not substantive law enacted by the National Assembly or State House of Assembly. Most of them are administrative rules, and we call them inferior rules. They cannot stand the litmus test of constitutional provision that guarantees these fundamental human rights. Those rights, you can only derogate them in a reasonable manner, in a democratic society, and those laws have to be enacted and explain why you have to derogate certain rights. But rights to fair hearing, you cannot derogate it. Oh, that I joined the military does not mean that I'm no longer a human being. Oh, so all my rights are taken away. That is not, this can only happen probably during the military era. And that mentality is what we're carrying over. And most of those rules also, if you interrogate them, they can't stand the standard of modernity. The issue that, I accepted to marry, and then somebody now punishes me because I accept to marry. Those rules may have been enacted during the military era. It's even discriminatory because I understand it's only law applicable only to the ladies. It does not apply to the men. But you remember that Mrs. Fumi Falana went to court in such a matter, that has to do with the police, that a policewoman cannot marry a policeman. And she got an order of the court that is clearly discriminatory. So this one, they are asking this girl not to marry within a period of 3 years after enlistment. Does it apply to the men? And if it does not apply to the men, it applies only to the women. It's discriminatory.
Well, perhaps in the same vein is the quote that we showed earlier, and I hope we can still see it again, where Mrs. Fumi Falana also said, said, in view of the fact that male soldiers have not been penalized for involving themselves in a public amorous relationship in full military uniform, the threat to sanction Private Sophia Akinlabi is discriminatory. That's ascribed to Fumi Falana, National Director of Women Empowerment and Legal Aid. And one of the things that this raises is, are we then suggesting that perhaps there are certain rules that are exclusive to gender? Because you know that in the military, as in a few other professions like that, there are no gender discriminations. All rules apply. So how then does this differ?
That is the point. That's why I say sometimes we need to interrogate some of these rules and place them side by side with the provisions of the Constitution.
But there are lawyers. My apologies for butting in. There are lawyers in the military.
You know what we did in the NBA? We have Olumide Akwata, the president of the bar, has now created a forum for military, paramilitary, lawyers, for them to interface with the NBA. We need to bring them in so that they can help also in formulating some of this legal framework, or administrative rules, and tell their guys on top that this is modern society in which we are living in, that most of the things they have in there as the administrative rules may have become a cake and no longer tenable in the modern society in which we are in. And that's why we are trying to have them be part of the MBA process. Observance of the rule of law is what MBA believes so much in. And then we are getting them involved. Because there are lawyers in these organizations, as rightly pointed out. But the point is that, obey the last command. Your guy on top says, even if it's wrong, you don't have any right to query. And we are saying that, listen, This can only happen under dictatorship. When you operate in a civilian democracy, it's a different ballgame entirely. You operate under the laws of the land. There are laws of the land.
But those, my apologies.
Yes.
I'm sure that my colleague Malkwa would want to weigh in on
yes.
this, but there are rules, just as you have said, in the military that govern the activities of every officer there.
That's right.
And it is clear that everyone signed to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So what if it so comes out that indeed there are breaches in the laws and all of that govern the activities of the military that have been breached by this
Brilliant question. We don't have problem with that. I have said it earlier. These organizations must maintain their internal discipline. Nobody's against all that. But I also know that those rules and regulations must also specify processes and procedure for penalty. You understand me? Let's get this conversation enlightened so that we understand ourselves. We are not against them discipline or you sign, but you cannot sign away your fundamental human right. You must also understand that. There is no way you join any and then you are no longer a human being. Because these rights we are talking about, if you look at it, is clearly inherent. It is not even given by the society. The conversation is that those rights were given by God before the creation of the society, fundamental human right. So nobody can sign now, oh, I'm a military officer, I'm signing away my fundamental right to fair hearing. No, you don't sign them away.
Let me emphasize.
Now, whatever I sign, let me just say, those rules as I sign will also specify that if I breach this rule, these are the penalties.
What if?
So what is the penalty cannot be indefinite detention. The penalty cannot be that I cannot be
Dr. Bani, just a second.
Yes.
What if, okay, listen to another quote now from Onyema Nwachukwu, who is Director of Army Public Relations,
right.
the person who has spoken about this so far. He says, and I quote, "The Nigerian military, like all others, has its disciplinary codes, distinct from that of the general society. Every personnel has voluntarily undertaken to be bound by this code. Voluntarily undertaken to be bound by this code. And everyone knows the consequences should there be a breach."
Ayo, I've heard you. Now hear me. There is no way you can sign that those basic rights that the Constitution has guaranteed to you as a citizen of the country has been taken away because you are a military officer. No. If I have breached any of the rules as a military employee, as an officer, punish me in accordance with the rule, because the rule also will specify the penalty process. I must be given a hearing, fundamentally. Then you now can either suspend me or you dismiss me, or there is no particular rule or regulation in any military or paramilitary that will say if you commit a crime, then you must be taken into detention indefinitely without trial. I must be heard. Then you now tell me what the penalties are, because those rules will specify penalty. You understand my conversation? Look, we can't stay here and say, oh, we must now allow lawlessness in all these organizations and all that. No, we are saying that those rules and regulations they have also signed will specify the process and procedure for which...
What if, Dr. Obani, what if the persons who signed this to be a part of the military
signs what?
Already know the consequences and already know this.
What are the consequences now?
And that what if one of those consequences is to first of all go
indefinite
into that
detention?
place? What if?
I don't think it is. And I can assure you that it is not. If any military officer, let them come now on air and tell us that this is what the rule says, that immediately you breach this rule, throw you into detention indefinitely. Let them come. We're here now. I mean, this is a modern society, for God's sake.
I'm not saying it is.
So those rules are,
I cannot hold brief.
Yes, let them come and say so.
Okay. Malkwe, may have one or two questions for you. Malkwe?
Well, I think that this conversation is quite poignant, because we're in the season of love, and it's supposed to be that of good tidings, and it will seem that this is love that is not being rewarded by the military authorities. It will be interesting to see how this action has been, is being perceived within military circles, because some people would have thought that that was an affront on the military institution. I mean, how can a youth corps member, who they normally call an otondo, now go and be proposing to a soldier? And usually, I mean, Mr. Obani, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We all went through NYSC camp, and we understand the dynamics of the relationship between the military trainers and the youth corpers who are supposed to be in their custody. However, you know, one would think that, you know, in this season, assuming, as my colleague has said, that perhaps there was really something in the rules, and which we're not very aware of it. I mean, if there's anything spelled out with regards to love proposals from youth corps members to military officers, we're not certain. But assuming there was, shouldn't there be some sort of cover of amnesty or some sort of cover of, you know, in the spirit of the season? I don't know. Shouldn't that apply in this circumstance?
Our leaders who run Nigeria in most times do not like it when we are happy, when there is joy. Love is an emotive thing, you know, as you rightly pointed out. And people say that sometimes love can be blind. I may not be bold. I also served. I may not have been bold enough to propose to any of those military officers, you know, while I was in Kano in the 90s. But this young man, I must also actually praise him. He has courage, he has gut, you know. And love does not understand the language of whether he's a military officer or not a military officer. This boy is in love, and that girl is, you could see the reaction of that girl. You also can see the reaction of those ladies. I mean, those women and men that were there. They were so excited. It has never happened before. And so this young man has broken record by having the God to propose to a lady. I think that the best thing to do in the circumstance, you know, if I were in the position of these leaders, you know, in the military, is to probably caution the lady. It's a marriage proposal. No marriage has been consummated. The boy has 3 years within which to wait before he can marry that girl. And this girl is saying, look, this is a great opportunity. I may not have any opportunity again. What if this young man leaves here and probably go and propose to another person? But let me get this guy. Well, because of social media, it could have been done secretly. Nobody will even know. So we are now in social media era. So the police and the army also have to understand, you know, and they were not the one that videoed all that and probably sent it and it went viral. So these are things that you put into consideration and say this is clearly a matter of the heart. A matter of the heart. And when it does happen, even though these organs, you know, who are on top now pretending, you know, we fall in love once in a while. So I don't think that this is the time for us to now mete out this kind of punishment on this small girl and put her in an indefinite detention and she cannot see her relation in this Christmas. Yeah, young lady, please. They should release this girl and probably grant, yeah, young lady, and okay, young lady, grant her this amnesty. It's a matter of love. It's a matter of a motive. It's a matter of hearts. And this girl has found a love, you know, and this boy has also found her lover, his own lover, and he's not ready late to go. He wants to make sure that that matter is consummated before he leaves the youth camp and all that. So please, I will appeal once again to the authorities that are concerned to really forgive this girl, this lady, and get her out of detention. And then if there's any measure they want to take by way of public reprimand or suspension and all, they can go ahead and carry, but don't put her in an indefinite detention. That again is what the human rights community is against. You know, most times they derive this pleasure in locking up people, you know, without trial. We frown against it. Nobody should be punished when there has been no fair trial and then giving that opportunity to that individual to answer to whatever allegation that has been leveled against that individual. So please, once again, Mokwe, I agree with you that we are in a season of love. Let the leaders play the role of God once in a while, which happens in all these developed economies. We see them, even when somebody has transgressed against the law. I have seen where a woman stole and a policeman arrested a woman. And when the woman says it's because of hunger, the policeman gave more money to the woman. I have seen it happen. So why is it that our leaders once in a while do not play this role of a God? We only play the role of Satan. You don't always want to punish, put her in detention. And we are so happy that we have put this girl now away. Because she has given, accepted to marry a bloody civilian. So please, I think they should tamper justice with mercy. That's what I would think in this regard.
Well, I understand that Colonel Yomi Dari, who is the former Director, Army Legal Services, has joined us now via Zoom. Colonel, should we say Merry Christmas to you in advance? It's going to be Christmas Day tomorrow. We're just wondering how this was perceived within military circles, that marriage proposal. I mean, looking at it right now, it does look, I mean, it looks really harmless, to be honest. It looks, as Mr. Ubani pointed out, it was a most courageous thing of that young man to be able to propose to a soldier. But it looks like it has not been received very well by military authorities. amongst the military officers retired and serving, how was that viewed? Was it viewed with divided opinion, or was everyone unanimous that no, this young lady has to be taught a lesson? How can she accept a proposal from a youth corps member?
Well, Mokwe, good morning and Merry Christmas to you and all the crew there. Yeah, it's Christmas time truly, and love is in the air. I must first put in a caveat here that even though I've seen or heard about this proposal about the youth corps member to this soldier, I have not really read into the details. And since I was just called upon this morning to join in this conversation, no doubt I wouldn't say no. I'm just going to be here to express, what I know as the custom and tradition in the military. Let me say it here, that first, you'll recall that the Nigerian Defense Academy, which is the Nigerian Defense Academy, that's the place where officers are trained, to lead. And then, of course, the Nigerian Army Depot in Zaria, where soldiers are also recruited and trained to follow and accept orders. Those are just the two places that these things take place. And for the military, for example, in the Nigerian Defense Academy, you recall that in the past we've never had women, we've never had females coming in there. But right now, in the last couple of years, I can remember maybe about 8 years or so now, you find out that females are coming in as combatant officers. Then back to the depot again. There, both male and female are recruited into the mainstream of the military as soldiers. Let me also state here that sentiments and emotions must be relegated when it comes to discharge of military duties, okay? Otherwise, the soldier won't be able to carry out their duties. Just like I listened to my learned friend, brother, Mr. Ubani. Yeah, he expressed, his opinion very succinctly. In this case, we know we are all in the democratic dispensation, but notwithstanding, the duties that are assigned to the military must be carried out. You not also forget that even as we speak, it's Christmas, love is in the air, everything is happening, but we have our brothers fighting in the battlefront. We have our brothers in the Northeast zone and all over in the South, in the Southwest, and in fact, all over the country. And even some of them are outside the shores of this country, trying to ensure peace. So once you are assigned a duty, you just have to address that duty. So for me, I think what must have prompted this reaction from this on the side of the military must be the way and manner that this female soldier has conducted herself. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, this thing, you don't have to do all the, it doesn't have to be in the full glare of the public, So I am also
Colonel, did she really have any control over that? I mean, this was not her idea. Perhaps you know how love proposals happen these days. Did she really have any control over that? Whether it would be done in the open, whether people were going to be doing social media videos, that was totally out of her control, wasn't it?
Mokwe, this is the military we are talking about. Sentiments and emotions, if you allow them to take a greater part of you, then we cannot prosecute this war. We cannot carry on the business of the military.
Well,
okay?
Colonel,
Yes, we are all human. We are all human, no doubt.
If you can hear me, Colonel, you said sentiments.
Your emotions.
Okay. Sentiments and emotions. Just a second. You said sentiments and emotions should take the back seat, but not love.
Ayo, what is a love? Is it not expressing your emotions and your sentiments?
I know that the military, for instance, is fighting the insurgents for the love of country.
Yes.
So
yes,
that cannot be remonstrated, can it?
Let me tell you something, Ayo. Most of the bad incidents we had in the front line are when some female, the bandits or the terrorists started using the female as baits. Okay, they started using them as baits, and then they would dress in some seductive, manner, or pretending, to be needing help. So these are what you call sentiments and emotions. So there's no way we can run the military on that.
We agree.
But mark my words, because we are all human. Mark my words. These things, and then again, aside that, I spoke about custom and tradition. Before you sign in for military service, especially as a female, there are certain things. Mr. Obani also mentioned that. Well, we can't throw that overboard. We can't throw that overboard. It's just like in the Nigerian Defense Academy when we were there, and I'm sure it still obtains that there are certain degree of casualty, that is acceptable. Okay, and so before you go in there, you have to sign. Somebody, your guidance, they have to sign. Such that it's some kind of
we really have to. Okay? We really have to hang this conversation somewhere now. But the appeal is being made in the spirit of the season of love, and from your experience as someone who operated within the legal circles in the military, do you see an amnesty for this young lady, because that's what people are asking for?
Yes, yes. I'm sure someone somewhere there. Yes, it happens. It happens. It happens. So there could I'm sure there could be a review. There could be a review of her case, and then she might enjoy some maybe some sanctions, and then which might not be too strict, too bad on her career, So,
all right, thank you so much, Colonel Yomidare, former Director, Army Legal Services, for your perspectives in this conversation this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, is that good enough for you?
It's not good enough. I'm very happy my colleague has said that there will be a review. I had expected, to hear that there is any crime that the lady has committed. And he was making the youth service environment to look like we're in Zambiza forest. This is youth service camp or training, whatever it is, and love cannot be banished, as I said earlier. Okay. Now, whatever she has committed, let them follow the normal procedure. I don't want them to put her in an indefinite detention, which is what they did with Cute Abiola. No. If somebody has committed a crime or whatever you say the person has actually breached, follow your laws, follow your procedure, and then get that person to be punished. Okay. This issue of, with alacrity, you throw somebody into, no, we frown at it. We clearly, we're also appealing to them.
Exactly. So let's stay with that.
We're in the love season. Yeah. Please, for the sake of love, for the military, I will want them to review the case of this lady and please release her so that she can join her family. All right. And God will bless the Nigerian military.
Amen. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Dr. Monday Ubani, his former second vice president, Nigerian Bar Association, as well as chairman, NBA Spillon. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.